Hi everybody, this is Jeffrey Matliff, US News Editor for Eurogamer, and I'm here to show you Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs, one of my favorite games of the year, and that's why I'm writing about it for my Games of 2013 piece. Now, a couple of quick little bits and bobs about this video. As you may have noticed already, my computer is not really a gaming PC. As a result, this is going to have a less than desirable frame rate and be at a rather low resolution. Now, that's not indicative of how the game will look on a lot of other people's computers, and hopefully it'll look better on your machine. And I think it says something about the quality of the game that even with the performance foibles that I've had to put up with on my end, I still really enjoyed it. The other thing is that this video is going to be a little bit spoilery. It's set about 60 or so % of the way through the game, and there's a few reasons that I did that. One is because it's one of my favorite sections of the game, and I think that it does a better job of explaining what makes the game special than something earlier on. And the other reason is that our YouTube editor, Ian Higton, has already done a Let's Play of the opening half hour of the game. So if you want a really non-spoilery look at the game, you can check that out. I'm going to put that in the article below this video. Also, this isn't a really plot-heavy game. I mean, there's a lot of story in it, but it's all very open-ended. So watching this is kind of on par with seeing the underground sections of Journey about 2/3 of the way through that game. It's a really cool section, and it's one of my favorite sections, and it's great to discover on your own, but seeing it doesn't really take away from anything that came before or after it. So without further ado, I'm gonna start playing through this section. So, as you've noticed, this is a sewer level. And sewer levels are usually the dullest parts of any video game. I always hate it when games go to the sewers. But okay. I think it says something about the quality of this game, that it does some interesting things with the sewer level, that it actually ends up being a really cool section anyway. But, okay. If you play the first Amnesia, you might remember these little splashing, invisible things. Is that a... yeah, that's a pig. Pig head. Very ornamental pig head behind that gate. There's quite a lot of those ornamental pig heads in this game. You know, I could read this aloud, but honestly it's probably better in your own voice, and it just wouldn't sound that cool. So if you're interested in this, you can just pause it and read it. I mean, it's YouTube, but if you want the video to be a little bit less spoilery, and honestly that's not the most interesting note in the game, so you know, if you're really interested, you can pause and read it, but otherwise, don't worry about that for now. These old telephones you pick up.
Drain the waters and open the way to the bilge pumps. We are waiting for you.
So I referenced Journey earlier, and I think that this game has a lot of similarities to that. Both games are, for lack of a better word, not very gamey. They so Journey had some like very light puzzles. You kind of float around and touch flagpoles to activate things in the environment, and some very light stealthy things in its later sections. This is probably a little bit more gamey than that, but not a whole lot. The number of enemy encounters in it is actually quite low. The puzzles are very simple, but when you do encounter the enemies, it's actually quite scary, because you kind of get a tendency to let your guard down. You sort of, you know, start to feel like you know how this game operates, and Oh, wow, okay, so I've not been paying attention while talking, so I just went the wrong way. That's okay, it only takes a second to go back. But yeah, like, you don't encounter a whole lot of enemies, but they can be really, really scary when they happen. The fact that they can happen really heightens the mood of the game, and it makes it really, really spooky, despite the fact that they're used incredibly sparingly.
But we can save them. We can set them free. We can replace a rotten old world with a clean new one.
Mr. Madness, you sound every bit the fanatic.
Well, how can I be otherwise, Professor? How can any man of ethics simply stand by and watch this world drown in its own excrement?
And your engineer, this visionary with whom you embarked upon this course, does he share your views?
Indeed he does. Indeed he does. The poor fellow has seen it all before. Now, this is not the first great civilization he has wept for.
And so you set about things immediately upon your return?
Naturally. These things cannot be left to rot upon the tree. And sponsors were remarkably easy to find. I tell you, Professor, a trail of greed brings rich men to your door like pigs to truffles.
Speaking of excrement, this game seems to have more crap in it than any game since The Binding of Isaac. But, you know, that it really adds to the flavor of it. It's a really dirty, really just filthy, gross environment. But, you know, it's a game about pigs. Well, I mean, it's a game about people, but, you know, people are pigs. In fact, the actual working title of the game was "We Are All the Pig," which is a quote from later on in the game. So, okay. Just pay attention. So sorry, this video is a little bit slow because I wanted to set some things up, but it gets a lot more interesting later on. This is a really cool note, but again, if you want to read it, you can just pause and read it. It's not terribly exciting to watch me read. Okay, so I had to drain this section. Oh, and you get these notes that say what your character's thinking. I talked to Dan Pinchbeck, the writer, about this game, and he said the reason he did these in notes was because he wanted the players to hear them in their own voice and kind of make sense of this unreliable character that you're playing as.
You're so near now.
Yeah, that's the voices of my children talking. There's quite a few of these rooms in the game. These rooms are essentially load screens. They're cool the first time, but less cool after that. But at least they make sense thematically with the game, that, you know, you're in these decontamination chambers. So it's actually after this section that the video, after these doors that the video becomes more interesting as far as, there we go, just wait for the decontamination steam to work. Okay. Things get really cool. They're so very human, so very childlike. I will not think of what I've seen of the chairs and cages, and I'll think of how such monsters may be sculpted. I quite like that passage, and you can see here, there's just these pig monsters. You can't go down there, by the way. These pig monsters just, you know, gobbling up, which is the meat also pigs? It's not quite clear. if it is, are they killing other pigs? Is someone else killing the pigs and feeding the slop to them? It's just, and I just love this, this dichotomy between like this kind of fancy-looking, you know, table with a, you know, lit candelabras in a sewer. Oh, there's another pig guy. What's he doing? Is he gonna come out this other end? You can kind of see their shuffle. They walk in a way that is just really pathetic and just really sympathetic. They're really, really interesting creatures. And, you know, I said this video is quite late into the game, but there's still quite a bit of game after this. And I thought it was quite daring of the developer of the Chinese room to show players the creatures this early, but it makes them maybe a little less scary in some ways, but we see them in, you know, less sympathetic circumstances, and they can be, you know, really terrifying. You know, they're all different. The pig's different. The person's different. What's he doing? So he is playing with children's building blocks, which is just really sad and disturbing. Remember, work together, sleep alone. Fraternizing will not be tolerated. That's a little bit of some gallows humor in the game. It's kind of like a little parody of a work environment, like, you know, The Office or something, where you're not, you know, supposed to date coworkers or something. Okay, maybe that's a bad example, because in The Office there is office romance, but you know what I mean. What's he doing? Possibly she. We don't know their sex. Just, it's looking away. I almost decided to look away from this to make the video less spoilery, but, you know, if you're watching this, you probably know what you're getting into. I wonder how many people watching this have not played the game. I imagine most people, but sometimes I kind of wonder if people are watching it to kind of hear my opinion of it. If they care about my opinion, it's fine if they don't, I guess, but, you know, I wonder if people are watching because they kind of want to learn to appreciate the game more, they're curious about it, or if they were on the fence about it, maybe they've heard some not so great things about it. It's a very divisive game. What's he doing? He's kind of huddled up there. Looks like he's sobbing. That one's sleeping above his cage. Perhaps symbolic rebellion against the station, or maybe something else. Am I just not standing in the right place? The game does have some sort of control quirks. I guess I can't have the light shining while I'm climbing, which makes sense. Let's see, the machine that this whole thing sort of takes place in is whirring and sputtering as I'm delving deep into the bowels of it. Which is really great. Like, in still screenshots, the game might not look that remarkable, but it has a real sense of place as you just get, I almost fell, as you get, you know, deeper and deeper into it, it becomes just a really just profoundly creepy place. This is probably where the low resolution is really not doing the game any favors. Although that somehow didn't bother me. I think that the sound in this game is a lot more important than the visuals. Because visuals are just kind of abstract, but the sound is what really makes this thing super creepy. Okay, I think that's just the other way it could have gone down. The game's pretty good about letting people find all the collectibles without having to like scour every little nook and cranny. They're usually sort of, you know, on the beaten path, so to speak. I think that's fine though. Like, I feel like the game just sort of doesn't waste your time that way. It doesn't want, well. So yeah, this is a loading screen to the bilge pump maintenance access, which seems like a pretty good place to end the video. So, oh, actually, I'll show you the loading screen, because the loading screens are actually really, really awesome. They're super evocative and have this great use of language. And, you know, it's a really unusual game. Certainly not for everybody, but if you like these sort of atmosphere-driven, you know, relatively linear, authored, but still open to interpretation experiments, and you like horror, I guess that's a lot of ands, but if that sort of thing appeals to you, I highly recommend you give it a shot, because it, you know, it really, really stuck with me this year, and I hope you enjoy it. Alright, thank you.